The blue light of 3 moons shone through the glass dome of the Grand Council chamber. Inside, Ambassador Tay stood before the Galactic Council, his thin blue arms shaking. The 7-foot-tall Drax representative leaned forward, looking down at the small Nari with what seemed like pity. "Your request has been noted, Ambassador," the Drax said. "But the Council must ask what value humans could possibly offer as military trainers. They are from a backwater planet, and barely space-capable." Tay's large eyes blinked slowly. At 4 feet tall with skin so thin you could see the outline of his bones, he looked exactly like what the galaxy thought the Nari were. Weak, fragile, and helpless. For 10,000 years that had been enough. The Nari were the scholars, the artists, the thinkers. They had no need for strength when they had their minds. But that was before the Vorn came. 3 Nari worlds have fallen in the past month, Tay said. His voice was soft but clear. The Confederation fleet always arrives too late. We need to learn to defend ourselves. The Meklar representative, a being of metal and crystal, made a sound like laughter. The Nari? Fight? You would break your arms trying to fire a standard blaster. Tay stood taller. That is why we need the humans. A screen appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a human woman lifting a weight twice her size. Another human ran faster than a Jexon sprinter. A third human took a hit that would kill a Nari and got back up. Humans come from a high-gravity world with extreme weather and dangerous animals, Tay explained. Their bodies are built to endure what most species cannot. We believe they can teach us. The council members looked at each other. The Drax spoke again. Very well. You may send a small group to Earth for this experiment. But do not expect much, Ambassador. Some species are simply not made for war. Commander, Jun Kim stood at the landing pad as the Nari ship touched down. It was small and elegant like everything the Nari made. Beautiful, but not built for battle. Just like them. The ship's door opened and 20 Nari stepped out. They moved carefully in Earth's gravity, which was stronger than on their homeworld. Their blue skin caught the sunlight, making them look like walking pieces of the sky. At the front of the group was a Nari that June recognized from the file he'd been sent. Ambassador Tay, the one who had convinced the Galactic Council to approve this crazy idea. June stepped forward and gave the traditional Nari greeting, touching his forehead, and then extending his hand palm up. Ambassador Tay, welcome to Earth. Tay copied the human greeting instead, holding out his hand to shake. His grip was weak, his arm thin. June tried not to show his doubt. Commander Kim, thank you for agreeing to help us, Tay said. These are the first volunteers. 500 more will arrive next week. June looked at the group. They were all dressed in simple white clothes, looking more like students than soldiers. One of them, a female with a marking on her forehead that indicated she was a scientist, was already taking readings of Earth's atmosphere. That's Sun, Tay said, following June's gaze. She's our leading expert on Nari biology. She believes we have potential that has never been used. June nodded, but he wasn't convinced. The Nari were known across the galaxy for their brilliant minds and beautiful art. No one had ever seen them as warriors. But orders were orders. Let's get you all settled, he said. Training begins tomorrow. Colonel Hannah Park looked at the Nari gathered in the training yard and sighed. This was going to be harder than she thought. But then, Hannah liked hard. Listen up, she called. Her voice carried across the yard, making some of the Nari jump. I know what the galaxy says about you. I know what they say about us humans too. That we're primitive, that we're violent, that we're too new to the stars to know anything worth teaching. She walked down the line, looking at each Nari in turn. They were small, with large heads and thin limbs. Their blue skin seemed almost transparent in the morning light. But there's something the galaxy doesn't understand about humans. We don't accept limits. We don't believe in can't. And starting today, neither do you. A Nari in the front raised his hand. It was the scientist, Sun. Colonel, I've been studying human physical training methods. Our bodies are very different from yours. Many of these exercises could harm us. Hannah nodded. That's why you're here, son. You're going to help us modify our training to work for Nari bodies. But the principle remains the same. Push beyond what's comfortable. Grow stronger through stress. Son didn't look convinced. The Nari have evolved for mental work, not physical. And how's that working out with the Vorn? Hana asked. The group fell silent. Images of burning Nari cities were on all the news channels. 3 worlds lost, millions of Nari dead or fleeing. The Vorn don't care how smart you are if you can't hold a line, Hana continued, her voice softer now. But I think you can. I think the Nari have more strength than anyone knows. Even you. 2 weeks later, June found Hana in her office, looking at medical scans of the Nari. How's it going? He asked. Hana pointed to the screen. See this? It's Ty's muscle density from when he arrived. And this is today. The 2 images were side by side. The difference was small but noticeable. They're changing, Hana said. Faster than should be possible. Sun says the Nari have an adaptation ability that's been dormant for generations. Their bodies can literally evolve to meet challenges, but only if the challenge is constant. June leaned closer to the screen. And living in peace for thousands of years meant they never needed to adapt for strength, Hana finished. But now, with the right stress, the right training, a loud crash from outside interrupted them. They rushed to the window to see what had happened. In the training yard, a Nari was standing over a broken concrete block. His fist was still extended. Around him, other Nari were staring in shock. That's Jin, Hana said. He's been pushing himself harder than any of the others. Jin looked up at his hand as if he couldn't believe what he had done. Then he saw Hana and June watching. He straightened his back and gave a perfect military salute. I think, June said slowly, we might need to rethink what's possible here. The Vorn Emperor's chamber was dark, lit only by the glow of screens showing star maps and battle plans. The Emperor himself, a massive figure covered in black armor with spikes along the spine, stood before a hologram of a small blue planet. Earth, the Emperor growled. A primitive world of no importance. His general standing nearby nodded. Yes, my Emperor. Except they are training the Nari, the Emperor finished. The weakest race in the galaxy thinks it can become a threat to us. He laughed, a sound like metal grinding on stone. The general showed another hologram. It was grainy footage from a spy drone. It showed Nari running, lifting, fighting, moving in ways that Nari had never moved before. The changes are small, the general said, but concerning. Our scientists say the Nari have a unique cellular structure that allows for rapid adaptation. The Emperor crushed the hologram in his armored fist. The Nari are nothing, they will always be nothing, but these humans, they are becoming a problem. He turned to his general. Change of plans. The Nari colonies can wait. Prepare the fleet for Earth. We will crush this problem before it grows. The general bowed and left. Alone, the Emperor looked again at the image of Earth spinning slowly in the darkness of space. So small, so vulnerable, so unaware of what was coming. The small ship dropped out of light speed at the edge of the Epsilon system. Inside, Colonel Hana studied the tactical screen. 50 Nari soldiers stood ready, their bodies tense but steady. Jin was at the front, his eyes fixed on the planet ahead. Status. Report, Hana ordered. The human pilot's voice was grim. 3 Vorn destroyers in orbit, multiple landing craft on the surface. They've taken the main city and are moving toward the research centers. Jin stepped closer to the screen. The civilian areas? Any word from there? Communications are down across most of the planet, the pilot replied. But we're picking up distress signals from the eastern settlement. That's where they're gathering prisoners. Hana turned to face the Nari soldiers. Their blue skin had darkened with training, their once thin bodies now solid with new muscle. They looked like warriors. But were they ready for real battle? Listen carefully, she said. Our mission is evacuation only. We get in, find survivors, and get out. We avoid direct conflict with Vorn forces when possible. Jin spoke up. My family lives in the Eastern Settlement. Many of our families do. If the Vorn are gathering people there, Hana nodded. Then that's where we go. But remember your training. The Vorn are heavily armed and armored. They've been fighting wars for centuries. You've been training for months. We understand, Jin said. The other Nari nodded. Hana touched the communication panel. Pilot, take us in. Low approach. Use the mountains for cover. The ship turned and accelerated toward Epsilon. On the screen, the Vorn destroyers continued their orbital pattern, unaware of the small ship slipping past them. The eastern settlement of Nari Colony Epsilon had once been a place of beauty. Glass buildings caught the light of the system's twin suns. Gardens, filled with plants from 100 worlds, added color and life. Now many buildings were broken or burning. Vorn soldiers marched groups of Nari civilians toward the central plaza. Their black armor made them look like moving shadows against the bright Nari structures. From behind a damaged wall, Hana watched through binoculars. Beside her, Jin and 5 other Nari soldiers waited for her orders. At least 200 Vorn troops, she said quietly. They're gathering everyone in the plaza, probably for transport to their ships. Jin's hands tightened on his weapon. My parents would be in the science complex north side. Hana nodded. We'll split up. I'll take half our force to the plaza as a distraction. Jin, you take the rest and get to the science complex. Find as many people as you can and lead them to the emergency shelters in the mountains. She activated her comm. All teams, prepare to move on my signal. Remember, quick and quiet. We're outnumbered 20 to 1. Jin touched her arm. We won't let you down, Colonel. Hana looked at him, at the determination in his eyes. I know you won't. In the science complex, Vorn soldiers moved from room to room gathering Nari scientists. They worked with cold efficiency, checking names against a list. The Emperor wants this one alive, a Vorn captain said, pointing to an older Nari male with a marking on his forehead. He's the leading expert on adaptive biology. The soldiers grabbed the scientist, who didn't resist. Like all Nari, he had been taught that fighting back only led to more pain. Better to cooperate and hope for mercy. A sound from the hallway made the captain turn. Check that, he ordered 2 soldiers. The soldiers moved toward the sound. Weapons. Ready? They turned a corner and stopped in surprise. A Nari stood there, but not like any Nari they had seen before. This one stood tall, held a weapon, and didn't cower at the sight of them. Drop your weapons, Jin said calmly. The Vorn soldiers laughed. A Nari giving orders? They raised their weapons to fire. Jin moved faster than they expected. He fired twice. The Vorn soldiers fell. Their armor, designed to stop heavy weapons, hadn't been prepared for the precisely aimed shots that found the small gaps at the neck. More Nari fighters appeared behind Jin. They moved quietly into the room where the scientists were being held. The Vorn captain turned, reaching for his weapon. I wouldn't, Jin said, his own weapon already aimed. The captain froze. What are you? He asked, looking at Jin and the other changed Nari. The future, Jin replied. Then he fired. In the central plaza, chaos erupted. Hana and her team of Nari soldiers attacked from 3 directions at once. They targeted the Vorn commanders first, using the tactics they had practiced for months. The Vorn responded with heavy fire, but the Nari moved like shadows between buildings, hitting and retreating. They were putting into practice everything they had learned on Earth. Hana led a group toward the main group of prisoners. Everyone move toward the south exit, she shouted to the frightened Nari civilians. We have ships waiting. A Vorn energy blast hit the wall beside her, sending chunks of material flying. One struck Hana's head, and she fell to the ground, blood flowing from a wound above her eye. 2 Vorn soldiers saw her fall and moved in for the kill. But before they could reach her, a blur of motion intercepted them. Jin fired at one soldier while kicking the other's leg out from under him. As the second Vorn fell, Jin struck with the butt of his weapon, hitting the weak point in the soldier's helmet. He knelt beside Hana. Colonel, can you hear me? Hana's eyes fluttered open. Jin, the complex. Secure, he said. We found 30 scientists, including my father. They're on their way to the shelters. Hana tried to stand but stumbled. Jin caught her. You're hurt. I'm fine, she insisted, though blood still ran down her face. The civilians. Jin helped her to her feet. Look, he said, pointing across the plaza. The other Nari soldiers had formed a protective line around the civilians. They were holding off the Vorn attacks, moving slowly but steadily toward the south exit. And the Vorn were falling back, confused by the unexpected resistance. They're doing it, Hana said with surprise. Jin nodded. You taught us well. On the bridge of his destroyer, the Vorn commander received the reports with growing anger. What do you mean the Nari are fighting back? The Nari don't fight. His second-in-command looked uncomfortable. These are different, sir. They're organized, armed, and they're with humans. The commander slammed his fist on the console. Send in the heavy units. I want this rebellion crushed now. But even as he gave the order, more reports came in. The Nari were evacuating the science complex. The prisoners from the plaza were escaping to the mountains, and his troops were taking unexpected casualties. Sir, his second-in-command said hesitantly, should we call for reinforcements? The commander looked at the tactical display. What had begun as a simple operation was becoming something else entirely, and if he called for help, the Emperor would learn of his failure. No, he decided. Launch a direct assault on the mountain passes. Cut off their escape. We end this today. Jin and Hana reached the mountain shelters as the sun began to set. Hundreds of Nari civilians were already inside the reinforced caves. The Nari soldiers had set up defensive positions at each entrance. We got almost 800 out, Jin reported to Hana, whose head wound had been bandaged. But there are thousands more in the other settlements. Hana nodded grimly. And we don't have enough people to reach them all. A young Nari approached them. Colonel, we're picking up Vorn troops moving up the mountain. Heavy units. They'll be here within an hour. Jin looked at Hana. We can't evacuate everyone before they arrive. Hana studied the terrain map. Then we make a stand. Here, at the narrowest pass. We hold them off long enough for the ships to get the civilians out. Against heavy units? Jin asked. That's suicide. Hana smiled tiredly. Sometimes the only way to win is to be where the enemy doesn't expect you. They don't expect Nari to fight at all. They certainly don't expect you to stand and face their best troops. She put her hand on Jin's shoulder. Surprise is our best weapon now. Jin nodded slowly. I'll gather our best fighters. As he walked away, Hana watched him. The Nari who had come to Earth seeking help was now leading his people in battle. It was more than she had ever expected, more than anyone had thought possible. And as the twin sons of Epsilon sat behind the mountains, she knew that whatever happened tonight, the galaxy was about to change forever. The morning sun rose over the training field. Dew glistened on the grass. 1 month had passed since the Nari began their training with the humans. Sun sat cross-legged on a hill, watching her people run. Her tablet showed their vital signs. Heart rates, oxygen levels, muscle density. The numbers told an amazing story. Each day, the Nari bodies were changing. Your theory was right, Colonel Hana said, sitting down beside her. They are adapting. Sun nodded, her blue skin catching the light. Yes, but not fast enough. The Vorn won't wait for us to evolve naturally. We need to speed it up. She showed Hana a new training plan on her tablet. It was more intense, more demanding than anything they had tried so far. This could hurt them, Hana said with concern in her voice. It could save them, Sun replied. Our bodies want to change. They just need the right push. Down on the field, Jin led a group of Nari through a series of fighting moves that Commander June had taught them. Jin's arms, once thin as sticks, now showed the beginning of muscle. He moved with a new confidence. Hana watched him closely. He's the strongest so far. He pushes himself the hardest, Sun said. Each night when the others sleep, he trains. More. His body is responding faster because he demands more from it. Hana stood up. Let's try your new plan, but we start with volunteers only. Ambassador Tay stood before the screen, talking to the Galactic Council. The alien faces looked back at him with doubt. Show us these changes you claim are happening, the Drax representative demanded. Tay signaled, and the camera turned to show 50 Nari standing in formation. They looked different from typical Nari. Their posture was straighter. Their blue skin had darkened to a deeper shade. They stood tall in Earth's gravity as if born to it. Impossible, the Meklar representative said. These cannot be Nari. Jin stepped forward and spoke to the council. I am Jin of the Nari. I arrived on Earth with skin so thin you could see my bones. Now I can run 10 miles without stopping. I can lift twice my weight. I am still Nari, but I am becoming something new. To prove his point, Jin picked up a metal bar and bent it slowly with his hands. The council members watched in silence. The humans are not changing our DNA, Tay explained. They are waking up abilities that were always inside us. For thousands of years we lived in peace and comfort. Our bodies had no reason to be strong, now they do. The Drax leaned forward. And if all Nari could change like this, then we could help defend the Confederation against the Vorn, Tay finished. We need more resources, more training facilities, more human teachers. The council members looked at each other. Then, one by one, they nodded. In the lab, Sun worked late into the night. Screens showed cells dividing, muscles growing, bones getting denser. She had taken samples from Jin and the other Nari who were changing the fastest. The door opened, and June walked in. You should rest, he said. Sun shook her head. Look at this, she said, pointing to one of the screens. The cells are learning, actually learning. When we expose them to stress, they don't just repair the damage, they rebuild, stronger. June looked closely at the screen. Is that normal for Nari? No, Sun said. This is new, or maybe very old. I think our ancestors had this ability, but lost it when we became a peaceful species. She showed June another screen. And there's more. The changes are happening faster, in each new group of trainees. It's like our bodies are remembering how to adapt. June sat down. What does this mean for your people? Sun's large eyes were bright with excitement. It means we can change much more than we thought, and much faster. In the training yard, Hana watched as Jin and 20 other Nari practiced with human weapons. Their movements were still not as smooth as a human's, but they were improving every day. Again, she called out. This time, focus on keeping your balance when you fire. The Nari lifted their weapons and fired at targets. The recoil, which would have knocked them over a month ago, now only made them step back slightly. Better, Hana said. Much better. Jin came over to her when the practice ended. Colonel, when will we be ready to fight? Hana looked at him. You're thinking about the Vorn? Jin nodded. Every day they take more worlds. My family was on Nari Colony Epsilon. I haven't heard from them since the attack. Hana put her hand on his shoulder. It felt solid now, not fragile like before. War isn't just about being strong, Jin. It's about strategy, teamwork, knowing when to fight and when to wait. Then teach us that too, Jin said. We learn fast. Hana smiled. Yes, you do. The message came at midnight. Commander June rushed to the communication room where Colonel Hana was already waiting. Nari Colony Epsilon is under attack, she said as soon as he entered. The Vorn fleet arrived an hour ago. June's face grew serious. The Confederation response? At least 3 days away, Hana replied. By then, there won't be anything left to save. They both knew what that meant. 3 Nari worlds had already fallen. Epsilon would be the 4th. The door opened, and Tai walked in with Jin and Sun. We heard, Tay said. Jin stepped forward. Let us go. The 50 who have completed the first phase of training. We can help. Hana shook her head. You're not ready for real combat. My family is there, Jin said. All our families are there. If we wait for the Confederation, they die. June looked at Hana. What about a small strike team? Hit and run, evacuation only. No direct engagement with Vorn forces unless necessary. Hana thought for a moment. It would be against orders. There are 20,000 Nari on that colony, Tay said quietly. Children, elders, scholars. The room went silent. Then Hana stood up. I'll take full responsibility. Commander, prepare the transport ship. I want the 50 best-trained Nari ready to leave in 1 hour. Jin stood straighter. We won't let you down, Colonel. This isn't about proving yourselves, Hana said firmly. This is about saving lives. Get in, get our people, get out, understand? The Nari nodded. As they left to prepare, June turned to Hana. You know the Vorn will be expecting something like this. Yes, Hana said. But they won't be expecting Nari who can fight back. The Vorn commander stood on the bridge of his ship, watching as his forces landed on the Nari colony below. The blue-skinned weaklings were running, hiding, begging for mercy. It was the same on every world they took. Sir, his second-in-command reported, we're detecting a small ship entering the system. It's not Confederation design. The commander waved his armored hand dismissively. Probably traitors who didn't get the warning to stay away. Scare them off. Yes, sir. And the Nari civilians? Herd them into the central plaza. The Emperor wants examples made. These worlds need to understand that resistance is pointless. On his screen, he watched as his soldiers rounded up crying Nari families. So weak, so pathetic. They would never be a threat to anyone. He did not notice the small ship changing course, heading not away from the planet but directly toward it, moving fast and silent through the darkness of space. 6 months had passed since the battle at Colony Epsilon. The training center on Earth had grown. What started with 500 Nari had become 5,000. Every day, more ships arrived, bringing volunteers from across Nari space. Sun stood, in her new lab, looking at the test results on her screen. Around her, human and Nari scientists worked together, studying the amazing changes happening in Nari bodies. Look at this, she said as Commander June entered the lab. She pointed to images of Nari cells. These are from Jin when he first arrived on Earth, and these are from yesterday. The difference was clear even to June's untrained eye. The new cells were denser, more complex. But it's not just strength, Sun continued excitedly. Watch this. She played a video showing Jin standing calmly as a Vorn energy weapon fired at him. The blast hit his skin and seemed to spread out like water on glass. It left only a small red mark. That's impossible, June said. Those weapons cut through starship hulls. Not impossible, Sun replied. Adaptive. After our first battle with the Vorn, the Nari who were exposed to their weapons began developing resistance. Their skin cells learned how to disperse the energy. June looked closely at the video. And you think all Nari can do this? With the right training, yes, Sun said. We're not just getting stronger. We're evolving specific defenses against the Vorn. It's as if our bodies are studying the enemy and creating perfect counters. In the largest training hall, Colonel Hana watched as Jin led a combat exercise. 2,000 Nari moved in perfect unison, performing fighting forms that combined human martial arts with new movements designed for Nari bodies. Jin no longer looked like the fragile being who had arrived on Earth. His blue skin had darkened to almost purple, becoming thicker and more resilient. His once thin limbs now showed clear, muscle definition. He stood tall and moved with power and grace. Hana remembered how she had doubted this program would work. Now, watching these transformed warriors, she felt a sense of pride. After the exercise, Jin approached her. The new group is learning faster than we did, he said. Hana nodded. Sun says it's because you've created a path. Your changes somehow help the next group adapt more quickly. Jin looked out at the new trainees. Many still had the light blue skin of untrained Nari, but even they were changing faster than the first groups had. We're becoming something new, Jin said quietly. Not human, but not the old Nari either. Does that bother you? Hana asked. Jin thought for a moment. No, the old ways would have meant extinction. This is survival. In a secure room beneath the training center, a human officer named Minho worked with sensitive communication equipment. As Earth's top intelligence officer, he monitored Vorn communications through a network of secret probes. For days, the Vorn channels had been unusually active. Something big was happening. Minho worked through the night, decrypting messages looking for patterns. When he finally broke the code, his blood ran cold. He immediately called for Commander Jun and Colonel Hana. They arrived quickly, followed by Tae, Jin, and Sun. Minho showed them what he had found. The Vorn are planning a direct attack on Earth, he said. Not a colony world, not a Confederation outpost, Earth itself. He displayed a map showing the movement of the Vorn fleet. Hundreds of ships were gathering, more than had been used against any previous target. They're afraid, Sun said, looking at the massive fleet. They've seen what we can do together. When? Jun asked. 3 days, Minho replied. Maybe 4. They're moving fast. Hana studied the map. We should evacuate the civilians. Call in Confederation support. The nearest Confederation fleet is 2 weeks away, Minho said. We're on our own. The room fell silent. Then Jin stepped forward. No, not on your own. We will stand with you. Tai nodded in agreement. The Nari owe Earth a debt we can never repay. You gave us back our future. Now we will help defend yours. Commander Jun looked uncertain. Most of your people are still in training. They're not ready for a full-scale battle. We don't need all of them, Jin said. The 2,000 who have completed training will be enough. Against that fleet? Hana asked, pointing to the map. It would be suicide. Sun had been quiet, thinking. Now she spoke up. Maybe not. I've been working on something. A way to accelerate our adaptation even further. All eyes turned to her. Sun took a deep breath. The Nari body responds to danger by adapting to survive it. So far we've been training in controlled conditions. Safe conditions, but what if we didn't hold back? What are you suggesting? Tae asked. A final phase of training, Sun explained. Using actual Vorn weapons. Real danger. Our bodies would be forced to adapt or die. Those who survive would be changed more completely than anything we've seen so far. That's too dangerous, Hana said firmly. We can't risk. It's our choice, Jin interrupted. Our risk to take. He turned to Sun. How many would you need? 100 volunteers, she replied. The strongest ones. Jin nodded. You'll have them by morning. The Vorn Emperor stood on the bridge of his massive flagship. Around him, a fleet of 1,000 warships prepared for the jump to Earth. The humans have turned the Nari into a weapon against us, he told his generals. A primitive world teaching the weakest race to fight. It would be amusing if it weren't so troubling. One general, braver than the others, spoke up. My emperor, some say we should not underestimate them. The reports from Colony Epsilon were exaggerated. The emperor cut him off. A small victory, nothing more. The Nari remain weak. The humans remain primitive. Together, they are still no match for the Vorn Empire. He pointed to a hologram of Earth rotating slowly in the center of the bridge. We will crush this problem before it spreads. The Nari will return to their place as scholars and servants. The humans will be an example to any who think of opposing us. The generals bowed their heads in agreement. None dared contradict the emperor again. In Sun's lab, 100 Nari volunteers stood in specially designed chambers. Jin was among them. Each chamber contained captured Vorn technology, weapons, armor, detection systems. Sun worked frantically, making final adjustments. Hana and Jun watched from behind a protective barrier. This is the most dangerous phase, Sun explained to the volunteers. Your bodies will be exposed to Vorn technology at levels that would normally kill our kind. Some of you may not survive. Jin stepped into his chamber. We understand the risk. The Vorn are coming for Earth. If this gives us any advantage at all, it's worth it. Sun looked at each volunteer. Their faces showed determination, not fear. They had all lost someone to the Vorn. They all had reasons to fight. "Begin when you're ready," Sun said, moving behind the barrier. Jin closed his eyes as his chamber activated. Pain shot through his body as Vorn energy weapons fired at reduced power. It felt like his skin was burning, his muscles tearing. But beneath the pain, he could feel something else. His cells racing to adapt, his body learning, changing, evolving to survive. Around him, the other Nari were going through the same process. Some screamed, some fell to their knees, but none asked to stop. Through the pain, Jin thought of his family, rescued from Colony Epsilon. Of Earth, his second home. Of humans like Hana and June who had believed in the Nari when no one else did. "We will not fail them," he whispered as another wave of pain washed over him. "We will not fail." Outside the chambers, Sun watched the readings with growing amazement. The changes were happening faster than she had dared hope. The Nari bodies were not just adapting, they were transforming. "It's working," she told Hana and June. "It's actually working." In the sky above them, satellites detected the first signs of the approaching Vorn fleet. Earth had less than a day to prepare for the greatest threat it had ever faced. A dawn broke over Earth's main defense base. The sky was clear blue, but everyone knew what was coming. The Vorn fleet would arrive within hours. In the command center, Colonel Hana and Commander June worked with Earth's military leaders to prepare their defenses. Maps and screens showed the positions of every ship, every weapon they had. "It's not enough," one general said, looking at their forces compared to the approaching Vorn fleet. "We should evacuate while we still can." Before June could respond, the door opened. Jin walked in, followed by the other Nari who had undergone Sun's final adaptation process. The room fell silent. The Nari looked different, very different. Jin's skin was now deep purple, almost black in places, with patterns that seemed to shift and change. His eyes glowed slightly. His body had grown taller, denser, stronger. The other Nari with him had changed in similar ways, though each was unique. "What happened to you?" Hana asked, walking around Jin, studying the changes. "We adapted," Jin said simply. "Our bodies learned from the Vorn technology, learned how to fight it, how to use it." He held out his hand. Energy crackled between his fingers, the same type of energy the Vorn weapons used. "Impossible," the general whispered. "Sun says it's not magic," Jin explained. "Our cells learn to absorb and redirect Vorn energy. We can sense their stealth. Technology now. We can withstand their weapons." June looked hopeful for the first time. "How many of you completed the process?" 93, Jin replied. "The others didn't survive." His voice was sad but steady. "They knew the risk." Hana put her hand on Jin's shoulder. "I'm sorry." Jin nodded. "They died so Earth might live, so the Nari might have a future. We will honor them by winning this battle." He turned to the screens showing Earth's defenses. "We have a plan." The Vorn fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. 1,000 warships, led by the Emperor's massive flagship. They moved in perfect formation, their black hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. On the flagship's bridge, the Emperor watched as Earth grew larger on the main screen. "Status report," he demanded. "Earth's defenses are minimal," his general reported. "A few orbital platforms, some ground-based weapons, nothing that can stop us." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "And the Nari? The ones training with the humans? We detect approximately 2,000 Nari life forms on the planet," the general said, "concentrated in 3 main locations." "Target those locations first," the Emperor ordered. "I want them eliminated before they can evacuate." The fleet moved forward, entering Earth's space. They expected little resistance. They expected an easy victory. They were wrong. From behind Earth's moon, small ships appeared. Each carried a mix of humans and Nari. They moved fast, using the moon for cover until the last possible moment. Jin sat beside Hana in the lead ship. 5,000 Nari warriors waited in ships behind them, ready for the signal. "Remember the plan," Hana said over the comm to all ships. "The adapted Nari target the flagship. Everyone else focus on the support ships. Stay with your human partners." Jin checked his weapons. Unlike the other Nari, the adapted ones carried no guns. They didn't need them. "The Vorn are moving into position," Jun's voice came through from the command center. "They're preparing to fire on the training centers." "Now," Hana ordered. The ships shot out from behind the moon, racing toward the surprised Vorn fleet. Countio. Earth below defensive systems came to life, firing at the nearest Vorn ships. The battle had begun. The Vorn Emperor stood up in shock as alarms blared across his ship. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Multiple ships approaching," his general reported, confusion in his voice. They're Nari ships, with human energy signatures." "Impossible," the Emperor growled. "The Nari don't fight. They never fight." A nearby Vorn ship exploded as a combined human-Nari attack squad hit it from multiple angles. Then another, and another. "They're using our blind spots," the general said in disbelief. "They know exactly where to hit us." The Emperor slammed his fist down. "Launch all fighters, target their ships, show no mercy." But the small, fast human Nari ships were hard to hit. They moved together in patterns the Vorn had never seen before. When Vorn energy weapons hit Nari ships, the shots seemed to do less damage than they should. And then something even stranger happened. A small group of ships headed straight for the flagship. Unlike the others, these made no attempt to evade. "Fire! Destroy them!" the Emperor shouted. Multiple shots hit the approaching ships. They broke apart, but instead of exploding, dark shapes emerged from the wreckage. Shapes that moved with purpose toward the flagship. "What are those?" the Emperor asked, leaning forward to see the screen better. His general zoomed in on one of the shapes. It was a Nari, but unlike any they had seen before. Its body seemed to absorb the darkness of space. It moved through the vacuum without a suit, propelling itself toward the flagship. "Impossible," the Emperor whispered. Jin felt the cold of space against his new skin. It didn't hurt. His body had adapted to survive even this. Around him, the other transformed Nari moved through space toward the Vorn flagship. They had trained for this moment. Their bodies had changed to make this possible. A short time in space, without suits. The ability to absorb energy weapons. Enhanced. Strength to tear through Vorn hulls. Jin reached the flagship first. He placed his hands on the hull and concentrated. Energy flowed from his body into the ship's systems. The Vorn shields flickered and died. The other adapted Nari joined him, each finding a weak point in the hull. Together they tore an opening and slipped inside. Vorn soldiers met them in the corridors. Energy weapons fired. Jin felt the blasts, hit his skin and absorb into his body. He reached out, redirecting the energy back at the soldiers. They fell. "This way," Jin said to the others. "The bridge is ahead." The Emperor watched in growing horror as ship after ship in his fleet was disabled or destroyed. The human Nari teams worked with an efficiency he had never seen before. Where humans lacked speed, the Nari provided it. Where Nari lacked raw power, humans delivered. "We need to retreat," his general urged. "We've lost 30% of the fleet already." Before the Emperor could respond, the door to the bridge exploded inward. Jin stood there, his body glowing with absorbed energy. Behind him, more transformed Nari filled the corridor. The Emperor drew his personal weapon. "What are you?" he demanded. Jin stepped forward. "We are Nari. We were the weakest race in the galaxy. Now we are not." The Emperor fired. Jin caught the energy blast in his hand and closed his fist around it. "We learned from humans," Jin continued, walking closer. "They taught us that strength comes in many forms, that limits exist only in the mind." Around the bridge, Vorn soldiers dropped their weapons as more Nari entered. The fight was over before it began. Jin stood before the Emperor. "Surrender now. End this war, or we will show you what the weakest race can really do." The Emperor looked at Jin, at the transformed Nari, at his defeated fleet on the screens. For the first time in his life, he felt fear. He dropped his weapon. 1 month later, the Galactic Council chamber was full. Representatives from every confederation, species had come to witness history. Ambassador Tay stood before them, changed like all the Nari now. His once fragile body had grown stronger, his blue skin deeper in color. "The war is over," he announced. "The Vorn Empire has signed a peace treaty. Their expansion has ended." Cheers filled the chamber. When they quieted, Tay continued. "But this is not just about victory in war. This is about what we have become. The Nari were scholars, artists, thinkers. We still are. But now we are protectors too." He gestured to Colonel Hana and Commander June, who stood to one side. "The humans showed us what we could be. They pushed us past our limits. They believed in us when no one else did." Tay turned to face the council. "Today, Earth becomes a full member of the Galactic Confederation, and the Nari formally name humans as our evolutionary catalysts, the species that saved us from extinction by showing us how to save ourselves." From the back of the chamber, Jin watched with pride. Beside him, Sun held data showing how the changes in Nari biology had spread to all their people now, not just making them stronger but smarter, more adaptable, better in every way. "What happens next?" Sun asked quietly. Jin looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's glass dome. "We go forward together, humans and Nari, the weakest races who became the strongest alliance." Around them, other species were already approaching, asking for training partnerships with humans. The galaxy was changing, and it had all started because one small, weak race had dared to learn from humans how to become something more.